Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm just checking to make sure this is live and working. Yes, I can see it. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my interview with Sarah Nykoruk. She is a teacher, a fellow neuro coach in training, now master coaches. We just graduated some master coaches. And also the host of the Teaching Little Brains podcast, which I have shared a number of times in my stories. I'll be sharing another episode today because I was listening to it this morning and it was amazing. But so Sarah, just, tell me a little bit about you, what led you to the neuroscience and the coaching. So share with us.
Sure. Yes. Hi. Good morning, Kelly. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me today. I'm super excited. I am a teacher, elementary teacher, which in Canada, so that means kindergarten to grade 6. I am a literacy coach currently. So I started off teaching French immersion in grade 1. Actually, I started off teaching English as a second language for about 11 years, and then 11 or 12 years. And then I moved into the public school system and taught French immersion to grade 1s. And then I moved into a role where I do literacy coaching. So supporting primary students in reading, supporting their reading, if they're a little bit behind, and writing, their literacy skills, and coaching teachers. So I coach with math and literacy mostly. That's my day job role. But I like to stretch out with, I've been recently getting into like project-based learning, the more holistic stuff, like really getting into engaging kids and getting them passionate about learning. And so about a year and a half ago, I came across Jim Quick's podcast, Quick Brains, and I started learning some really cool information, tips and tricks and hacks about your brain and memory. And I thought, wow, this is really cool stuff. Like this would be super engaging for kids to learn, and be very useful and helpful to them, learning how to use their brain to like learn more efficiently. And he had his own story where, he was the boy with the broken brain and thought that he would never, he had lagging reading skills and all this kind of stuff. And now he's like the memory expert. So then I followed down this path, and you know how podcasts work. If anybody listens to podcasts, they'll mention somebody and then they mention somebody else, and they're all kind of in their the posse. And so I just followed the trail, and I learned about some super interesting other people, and eventually landed on Dr. Shannon Irvin, who is our neuro coaching coach, and got into her program because my thought with that, like aside from these tricks, it started getting bigger than that. When I started learning more, I started seeing like this is bigger than just a few like cool memory tricks that are super fun and helpful. But like kids can Google the stuff that we used to need the teachers for to learn when we were in school. They can Google that in 5 minutes. Like the quick answerable questions are easily found, but it's the skills like resilience and overcoming like emotional difficulty and all these things. And I've seen so many poor little brains where they're just struggling so much, and like, kids who run out of class and call themselves stupid at 6 years old. And hearing about, 10-year-olds committing suicide, and it just made me so sad because of the pressures. And so I thought if we could teach these kids how their brain works, and like we've learned in the neurocoaching program that like our programming happens in our brain without really our even realizing it between the ages of 0 and 7. We just kind of take everything in based on what we see and hear from the caring adults around us. And so how great would it be if we could help these kids understand that it's not their fault, that's how their brain is working. But now that we know this, we actually have choice and control over what we choose to believe. Like the fact that we could choose to believe something or not was like so mind-blowing to me. And I don't know if I was just like slow to the game, but like
right there with you.
When I heard that, I was like, what? So I can choose, like, I don't have to just accept every thought that enters into my brain. It's an option. And that just opened up so much for me. And so if we could help these kids learn that too, that was my main driver, was to like, let's really help these kids deal with the things that they're dealing with, because they have a lot on their plates. And like, it would just help the mental health issues in the schools, and it would help teachers and parents. Like it's for everybody. So that's my long-winded journey into
and I love that. Obviously, I've heard some of this before, but I mean, I just know your heart for it, and so I wanted to share that with my audience too. So can you give us an example of like just an exercise or some way that this has shown up in your classroom, whether that was, in person or now, digitally in the last couple months, but, how have you put this into practice with the little brains and, that you teach?
Sure. So I've done some of the like fun stuff, like I call them Jim Quick memory tricks. And so he has like, quick ways to memorize list of 10 things. So there are a whole bunch of different approaches. And I actually did a couple podcast episodes about that. So if you want to do one, it's really fun, or you can go to his.
I've listened to the one about the first 10 elements on the
so cool.
The
periodic table.
That's it. That one. But it was super fun. And I mean, it's been a little while, but I probably could, if with some time, go back and remember the whole story. So that was it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I did it a year ago, and it came to me and I was like, oh my goodness, like that's so cool. So you can apply that to anything, like the needs of living things in grade 1. Like there's so much science, or so like all the process stuff or things that we do need to memorize. Those are so helpful. So I've done some of those things, the rhyming and all those kind of brain hacky tricks, but then also things like deciding in advance. So for example, if we're about to head into a tricky task, or and this can be like any grade, it doesn't just have to be with the young kids, but I'm just speaking to them because that's who I've been working with mostly, and I have a 5-year-old daughter, so it helps with her. Right. So for example, if we set up a challenge, and this can be done at home with your own kids or yourself or your classroom, doesn't really matter, but let's say you're going to take on a tricky task. So we had a challenge from somebody that shared making a tower as high as possible using only 20 pieces of paper. So there's no scissors, no tape, no string, no guidance, just 20 pieces of paper, make a tower as tall as you can, standing for 30 seconds. And my brain was like, how on earth I can't balance a piece of paper, and so I knew like, okay, this is going to get frustrating at some point, because I can see already, like my brain's already going, I can't do it. It's not possible. But I'm going to try it. I know I'm going to get frustrated. I know there's going to be some point where I'm like, this isn't working, and I want to give up. So I'm going to decide in advance, when I get to that point where it is frustrating, how am I going to respond? What are my options? So I've done this with students. Like, we know this is going to be frustrating. How are you going to respond? When you go out for recess and someone says, you ask, can I play with you? And someone says no. How are you going to respond? Because you have choices. And just teaching them like, whoa, having choices, like I said, was a big one. So I almost go through them. We learned this model, like how our thoughts work. So there's a situation like my teacher told me to choose a partner, and my best friend picked somebody else. Then I have a thought about that. So my thought is like, oh, my best friend doesn't like me anymore. Then I have a feeling, oh, I'm crushed, I'm upset, I'm sad. And then my action is I cry, and my result is I end up with no partner. And then I highlight with the kids, this is another thing I've done, is teach them how this model works. This is in your brain, this is how scannable on a brain scan, this is how our brains work. And so let's take that same situation. What if my thought instead was like, my friend picked somebody else, my best friend picked another partner. What if instead of my best friend doesn't like me anymore, I just thought, oh, well, we were partners yesterday, I'll just pick somebody else. What's the feeling now that I have because of that? Right. And it's like, oh, I'm fine with it. Like, it's fine. I'm content. I'm happy. I get to work with somebody else. My action is I find a different partner. My result is now I have a partner and we're off to work. So teaching kids that, even teaching them the neuro model, and again, any age, anybody, right. Our brains all work in the same way for the most part. And like just showing them that, we have the option of choosing our thought. Wow. So yeah, there's lots of great things. Like, this is so applicable. Homeschool ourselves, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's what I love about it.
Yes, I I've loved hearing some of the examples you shared. I listened to your Deciding in Advance episode this morning, so that'll be what I share later, where you're talking about, the recess and different things, but also how it's applicable to your own life and your interaction with your daughter. And, some of the interruptions when you're trying to work. And I just thought that was really powerful. And how we can choose to, we can decide in advance how we are going to respond when an inevitable interruption comes, and therefore just kind of be in a different state of mind.
Yeah, especially now, and especially for parents, maybe we should highlight this a little bit, because this is what happened. I'm trying to do work, and we know we're all home. Well, at least in Ontario, we're still home and, apart from people. Mm-hmm. And it's been long. Some days are long. And it's just me and her, and I still had responsibilities for my teaching job. Everything went online, and my husband was still working outside of the house. So it's me and my daughter at home, and I would be in the middle of something, like right in the flow. You know how this happens. And it's, Mommy, can you play with me? Mommy, can I have a drink? Mommy, can I have a snack? Mommy, I was like, Zoe, just give me a second. That was my response, or at least internally. And then I would come to her like, yes, at least with a sigh. And then I thought, oh my goodness, what message? Then she would start saying, it broke my heart, because she would start saying I love you, Mommy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she thinks that she's a nuisance. That was my fear, is I'm dumping this story in her brain, because now I'm super sensitive to what I'm doing to her brain, that she is a nuisance, or that it's not a joy for me to, talk to her. So I decided in advance to every response would be first. If I needed a second, I would take a second and breathe out, but not in an annoyed way. Just kind of my decision was to take a second, look her in the eye, and say, yes, my love, with joy, or at least patience. And so that was it, that little teeny thing. And it made a huge difference. That just one little decision, that one little action, just changed our sort of day almost. For now, it's much easier. If she interrupts me, I just take a second and I just say, yes, my love. And whatever we move from there. If her request is the snack, then I'll say Mommy's just busy for 1 second. Can you give me 2 minutes? And we'll set a timer or whatever it is. But deciding in advance, opened up. Yeah, it's a game changer.
Yeah. So I know that you also, the coaching angle of things, that you have, a membership that, you interact with adults too. So tell us a little bit how did that works?
So I know that there's so many great teachers out who believe and want the same things. We all want these little brains to be happy, healthy, and, fulfilled. And we want to feel fulfilled at the end of the day. We're making a difference. We're helping these little brains, right? And helping them cope with things, and giving them the tools. There's so teachers are wonderful human beings. And everybody's a wonderful human being, but there's so many teachers that want to do this, and they don't have this information or this training or these skills yet. And so my hope was to create a membership where we could go through a supported journey through the school year, and I could coach them on their own thinking and help them implement some of these things, teach them some of these, the hacks and the tricks, but also the science behind it, to implement this in their classroom, to get, a class that is self-aware and empowered, and so are they, and they feel more connected to the students, and the students have, when they do run into those emotional challenges, they have the tools to work through it. And so that's what we do inside the membership. And I do some coaching, and I do some also capacity building, which means teaching different, taking the kids outside, how to get, because we are still kind of confined as teachers into this box of assessment. We have, standardized tests and report cards that we are responsible for. So, but it is possible. And teachers are kind of stressed, and they have a lot of demands on them. We feel like there are a lot of expectations put on us, and they constantly are taking things away. We can't use this tech tool because of privacy issues. We can't do this. We can't do that. So it's all the support and funding gets cut right, left, and center. So supports are taken away, and expectations are poured on. But still, there is a way to still do all these wonderful project-based things, and engaging and inquiry-based learning student directed stuff and still extract the data. And so I like to help show teachers that it's possible and how to work outside the box and still, be responsible for the things that are that are still inside of it. So and then coach them on also their mindset and opening up their lives, because they're people too, right? They have all the things that we have, and plus responsible for the 30 or like 20 to 45 little brains that they have in front of them too. So
yeah, I love that. So I know that you're, probably really busy with teaching, especially during the school year, and coaching and your membership. But what are some of your favorite things to do when you're not doing that stuff, when you just have free time? What are your favorite things to do?
Free time. Like, it's a relative term.
Exactly.
No, I love, well, this was a hard one when you asked me like about this. And I know like Dr. Shannon has said, like, if you get sucked into one thing, you can turn out being like one dimensional. And I think, oh my goodness, I think that's me. But then I thought, no, wait, there are lots of things I like to do. I always have this brain stuff in my brain. Like I like listening to podcasts about it. I like reading books about it. I like, I've learned transcendental meditation and like EFT, like the tapping, and rapid manifestation method, which is phenomenal. Another tool that I'll be implementing in my teaching. And so, but yes, I like to go outside. I love spending time outside, grounding, like just doing all the things that I've learned about that are good for our brains. I like to do that stuff. I also like to, so I usually work out in the morning, and then I like to watch Netflix, like whatever, watch movies with my husband. That's something that we really like to do.
I loved your Hermione Granger episode, and how it segued into like all of the ways that we as women are uniquely designed to really thrive. But I also love the backstory of what you and your husband and Harry Potter, and how that was part of your early dating.
Movies.
Yeah.
we're like movie watchers, and Friends. I'm like obsessed with Friends. So it comes up in like I use quotes all the time. It's applicable to everything, but it's constantly like, oh, it's like the one where Joey did this, and people are like, they're not really real people. I'm like, that's a matter of opinion. Yeah. But yeah, we're definitely repeat watching movie watchers. So like I used to watch a movie and then like rewind it when we had VHS and watch it again. And then when we got DVDs and they had the editor's commentary, or directors. Yes. So I would watch the movie and then I would watch it with the director's commentary and then watch it again to notice the things that they talked about, like in a row. So like, oh yeah. So movies, I love getting outside. Moving my body, connecting with people. I just love like chatting with people, reading, like, all the things. I'd like to pick up some sort of skill. My husband, I have like learned the ukulele, which is really fun. And like mastery is something that motivates people. So this is another thing to put in the classroom. And there are three, like kind of, passion and mastery. So that really drives people, that gets people going, which is why we like to do things like the Genius Hour and the project-based learning, is because they want to get better at something like a musical instrument, or like, I don't know, building something or doing something faster. Like their mastery is really cool. So I like to do also like repurpose like furniture or make signs and things like that. I love those hands-on projects too.
All right. I love it. So I think, that was pretty much all we, had said we were going to talk about. Is there anything else that like came up that you're just like, you really want to share with people this morning, or? Well,
I just really like what you're doing, your mission, your vision. I think it's fantastic. And I was just thinking about this morning, actually, when I woke up, is like, I'm hoping to set my little brains or the little brains that I work with up to the point where they come to you and you can, take it from there and show them like some of the less traditional paths through education and finding their passion. Oh, we talked about this earlier, and this was kind of plays into why I got started too, is that and it kind of links into what you're doing too, is like when you have people and they're, people, sometimes we get stuck, especially as parents, once your kids grow up a little bit or you have more free time and you think like, now what do I do with my time? Because we're so used to like, serving our kids and putting their needs first. And then it's like, well, what's your passion? What lights you up? And so many people don't know anymore. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's really sad. And the like kind of clincher question is, well, what did you like to do as a child? And I found that even sadder, because how sad is it that we have forgotten somewhere between childhood and grown-uphood, mm-hmm. We don't even remember what that passion was. And I feel like all those years in between where what were we doing with those years if it wasn't something that we loved or something that, got us going? And so that's what I want to do. And then I'll pass them off to you. You can take it from there, because I think it's fantastic. I think there are so many paths to, whatever your definition of success is or your vision for your life is, there are so many paths to get there. And like traditional educational path is one way, but also absolutely. There are like 15,000 other ones, especially with all this online learning and, apprenticeships and travel. Like I learned way more traveling. That's another thing I love to do. I learned way more traveling than I ever did like in school. Mm-hmm. And part of it was like the passion and the interest and, the experience and, being open to it, and the time, the timing when it was, I was primed, my brain was primed and I was interested in learning, but also I had time. It was my own choice. Mm-hmm. So, I just really love what you're doing. I think so many people will benefit from that. And sometimes there's so much pressure on, again, the pressure, and like, we don't have to believe every thought, oh, I need to go to university. Oh, I don't need to believe that. Or, I have to go. No, I don't. It's my choice. So I just really love what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, this has been just wonderful. I mean, I love interacting with you anytime, whether we're on a group call or whether we get to talk one-on-one. It's always so fun, and you're so encouraging. Just even like our graduation ceremony the other day with your hat and your noisemaker, you just make everything so much fun. So if people want to connect with you more and just kind of follow what you're doing, where can they find you?
So I started my I have Facebook page, Teaching Little Brains. I have a group that, like, it's mostly like you were saying before, it's kind of geared toward teachers, but there are some like parents in there or people that just find this stuff interesting or helpful for themselves as well. So there's a Facebook group, free Facebook group, Teaching Little Brains. My podcast is called Teaching Little Brains. That's where kind of I share all the nuggets that I'm learning with a wider audience. And I have Instagram, teaching.little.brains.
Yes, I found that out yesterday when I did the announcement, and I had programmed it the day before, and I was like, oh wait, there's actually somebody else with this other handle. I better go in and edit it. So yes, teaching.little.brains on IG.
Right, and I always forget that too. But yeah, so those are mostly, I really
super
like
simple.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Yep,
That's all
love
it. Yeah. And then my membership, you can, if you're interested in the membership, you can find it through those avenues or contact me through there. It's called Minds On.
Minds On?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This has been so lovely. I definitely would love to do this again sometime, but I just appreciate like what you share about not only how it can impact us. And I've shared this with you personally. I'm not a parent yet. Maybe someday. I'm not a teacher, but every time I listen to your podcast, I get something out of it that I can apply to my life or my relationships or different things. And so, it's just always a lot of fun, always super encouraging, and I come out with something new that I can apply. So I just, thank you so much for what you're doing. And I think it's amazing. And, I just really loved that you were able to join me today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And thank you so much. I'm so glad that it brings you some value, because that's my hope.
Yes, absolutely does.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye.